To begin the dialogue and the discussion tonight, I've got a very, very cool video clip to share with you. And this video clip is from the toughest man that ever walked the face of the earth besides Jesus, okay? We take Jesus out, Jesus is always the answer, right? Okay. So this would be the second toughest, manliest man that has ever walked the face of the earth. And I think we can learn something from him, okay? So you guys ready? You ready for this clip? It's about 3 minutes long, so just hang with it. There's a little bit of violence in the clip, okay? So if you don't like snot and blood and guts, just cover your hands, okay? Put your hands over your face, okay? So that's my warning. It would be considered PG today, this movie, okay? Back in the day, it probably was different, but today, according to today's standards, it's about PG. So just that's my warning to you. Okay, are you ready? Hopefully this will work. This is, if you can recognize this clip, just don't say anything. Can we turn the light? Is there any way to hit the lights at all? If we can't, that's fine. That's fine. Just maybe one or two. All right. Perfect. Okay, you ready for this clip? All right, here we go. Without further ado. I need some sound.
Take his heart. Hold him. Take his heart. No pain. No pain. No pain. Take his heart. Keep working. Keep working.
For round two, it's been a one-sided fight so far.
It will take more than luck for Rocky to survive this round. Rocky's been hit with bombs.
Rocky Balboa trying to stay in the middle of the ring against the big Russian.
Do what you gotta do. Stay with him.
Drago's best punches so far. He's tired, he's bleeding, but he's on his feet and he's on the line.
He's cut! He's cut!
Russian's cut! It's a bad cut! And now it's Rocky Balboa coming after Ivan Drago. Shaping up to be a personal war.
Okay.
Now,
I'm going to stop it right there. Who doesn't know the name of this movie? Raise your hand. Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. If you hadn't seen this movie before or don't know what it is, just raise your hand. That's okay. Okay. For those of you who have seen it, let's school these younger ones on what movie this is. What movie is this? Rocky. Now, you can be a real big champ to me if you knew which number of Rocky it was. Rocky 4, not 3, 4. If you said 3, you are incorrect this evening, okay? Rocky 4. And do you guys know the context of Rocky 4 which led up to this whole fight? If you don't, let me break it down for you tonight, okay? This is one of the greatest movies that has ever been created, and the church said, amen, amen. Okay, very good, very good. Rocky is one of the manliest men that ever walked the face of the earth. Let me tell you the story of what's going on here. So, the story of Rocky, in particular 4, begins with this narrative. Rocky had a love-hate relationship with his, you know what a frenemy is? Have you ever heard of frenemy? Yeah, so there was a guy that was his frenemy. At first he was his enemy, but then became his friend. And this guy goes by the name of Apollo. Very good. I like it tonight. Apollo Creed. Apollo Creed was a stud and eventually became Rocky's really, really close friend. Enters the picture this big beast of a man. His name is Ivan Drago, right? You guys remember? Drago, right? Ivan Drago. He is the heavyweight champion of the world. He's really big and well known in Russia. He's like this stud. He looks like he's on steroids. So Apollo Creed and Drago decide to have an exhibition fight, really just for fun. It wasn't anything really major, not a big title fight. So they both get into the ring, and Apollo Creed, he's sticking and moving, and he was a jive turkey. You know what I mean when I say jive turkey, right? He talked a lot of mess, and he was trying to get in people's heads. Drago punched him, bow, and started whooping him in the ring. Fought him so hard that he ended up killing Apollo Creed. You guys remember the story? In the ring. So Apollo's on the ground. Remember, he's on the mat, and he does that one move, so you know he's out of it. He is dead at this point, and Rocky is devastated. So Rocky says, I'm going to avenge my friend Apollo Creed, and I'm going to fight this beast of a man. So here comes the battle, and the whole time in Rocky IV, you see Rocky going through all of this training, and in one of the clips, Rocky says, I'm scared to fight this guy. I'm scared. I don't know if I can do it. Eventually, he gets into the ring, and you see what Drago is doing to Rocky. He's beating him up. He's whooping him. He's not gonna, and Rocky is hurt. He's bleeding. He's scared. But what do we see in the attitude of Rocky? We see a never quit attitude, right? So when he's getting beat up, and he's getting knocked down, and he's having a hard time, what makes Rocky such a man of a man is he gets up and he keeps fighting every single time, and eventually he wins. If you have not watched that movie, I would encourage you to go back and to watch the film. It's the greatest one. Tears come out of my eyes every single time I watch the movie. Rocky IV, I recommend it. So go back and look at it. All right, as we begin tonight, I want to start with our verse. I'm not going to make you stand because you've had a long, difficult day today, but I'm going to ask you to join with me as we read our theme verse for this series, all right? You ready? Read with me. Fight the good fight. Take hold. Very good. Fight the good fight. Well, why do we need to fight the good fight of faith? Well, because sometimes in life we can get hurt. And if you guys remember, our theme for this whole series, like I said, is never quit. And we've been talking about certain things that cause us from time to time to want to quit. So yesterday we talked about the idea of feeling different. Remember, we talked about sometimes we go to church and we're embarrassed by our church. We have Sister Dorothy who hits that sideways note, and sometimes we get embarrassed by our church gathering and our people. And sometimes we struggle with it. We feel different when we're the only ones in youth group, or we're the only one. It's hard, right? So sometimes we feel like we don't fit, and because of that, sometimes we want to quit. And remember, I shared the article with you last night about can the churches of Christ be saved, right? So we spent our time talking about how we feel different and how when we feel different from time to time we want to quit. Tonight, here's another reason why we might want to quit. If you get hurt, it's really easy to want to quit. If you get hurt, it's really easy to want to quit. My second quitting story for you tonight. Like I said, I have been an expert at quitting in my life. Here's my second story. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, many moons ago, I was about 17 years old. And I woke up on a Saturday morning about 12 p.m., as teenagers do. And my dad opens the door and he says, "Boy, you need to get a job and get up." I said, "You got it, Daddy." So I go over to the AMC 24 and I sign up for a job. Why did I pick the AMC 24? Because I thought it was going to be a really, really easy job, right? All you do is take tickets and give people popcorn. It's easy, right? Has anybody worked at a movie theater before? Are you still traumatized by it till this day? Okay, so let me tell you why working at the AMC 24 is very difficult. I show up for my very first day of work. And the days that they want you to work are on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So on Friday nights, what do most 17-year-olds want to do? Hang out with their friends. But no! I had to be at the AMC 24. So this night I show up, they give me my shirt and my little hat, and they say my job is to make sure I work the concession. And I hand out the food and the drinks and all that good stuff. And I go, this is easy, no problem. A child can do this. Watch me work. So I show up, I get in line. They open the door. It's about 7 o'clock. Woo! Line wrapped outside of the door with full of people waiting to get popcorn and hot dogs and drinks. And so I'm sitting there taking people's order. And they go, can I get an extra large popcorn with extra butter? Can I get a gallon of Sprite? Can I get a hot dog? And you know, they have nachos with the cheese. So I'm sitting there and the line doesn't end, and I'm getting frustrated and I'm sweating because I can't remember people's order, and then people get impatient. And I'll never forget this one lady. She orders a large popcorn. I go there, I fill it up, and I bring it to her. And she looks at me and she says, what is this? And I was thinking to myself, you can't see, woman? No, I didn't say that. But I said, ma'am, it's your large popcorn. She said, this is not hot enough. And I was like, oh, man, well, it just came out. I'm so sorry. She said, I don't accept this. And she pushed the tub of popcorn right back at me, right? And I'm thinking to myself, it's about to go down, right? It's about to go down. And I said, ma'am, what can I do for you? She said, get me a hot batch of popcorn. I was thinking, how am I supposed to do that? It takes. And so I said, ma'am, you're going to have to wait 5 minutes. She said, hurry up and do it then. And I'm thinking to myself, over some popcorn, lady. So I go back and I get a new batch of popcorn. I put the kernels in the top of the thing, and I put it in there, and I put extra oil because I was mad that day. Just dump it in there. Looking at the lady. So I'm sitting there. It starts to pop. You know what happens? A kernel flies out of the top of it. Pew! And I saw it in slow motion. Woo, 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 woo. Hit me right in the eyeball. Right in the eyeball that day. And I said, ah! And people were looking at me. And then I composed myself, and I looked at the lady, and I said to my manager, can I take my lunch break now? And the manager said, you go ahead. Did I come back that evening? No. I decided to quit that very moment because I was frustrated and because I was hurt. It's really easy to want to quit when you get frustrated and hurt. And being frustrated and being hurt happens a lot when you are a part of the kingdom of God. Have you ever had a bad day before and you wanted to talk to somebody about it? So you go up and you talk to your parents and you say, Mom and Dad, I've had a rough day, I'm having a difficult day, and all you want is encouragement. But instead, what do your parents do? What kind of shirt do you have on today? Those shoes, why you're there? And you go for encouragement, but you end up feeling discouraged. Or how about this one? You're having a rough time, and all you want to do is you just want to go to church, and you want to hear an encouraging word and be uplifted and leave feeling fulfilled. But yet, the very opposite thing happens. Have you been there before? Where all you're looking for is encouragement. But when you go to that place of encouragement, instead you receive and you feel hurt. I think all of us, if we're going to be honest, have been in that position before. And what I want to communicate to you tonight is when you are hurt, you have to realize that we are broken people, and broken people make mistakes, and we hurt one another. But sometimes when that hurt comes from your family, it's really, really hard to deal with. So what I want to do tonight is I want to tell a story, another story. You guys are like, you always tell stories. I'm going to tell a story, a biblical story of a person who I think was really, really hurt and had to deal with these ramifications of feeling hurt and being discouraged, okay? So if you guys can guess this picture, you will be my star students for the evening. Even if you're from Ohio Valley Christian College, or I'm just joking, or Lipscomb, you can still be my favorite. Okay, here we go. If you can guess this picture, I'll be very, very pleased. Do you recognize this picture? Anybody? Who am I hearing? Anybody? Joseph. It's the story of Joseph. What do we know about Joseph? Help me fill in the story. What do we know about Joseph? Yes. He was his father's favorite. Any favorite children in the house tonight? Go ahead and raise your hand. We know who you are, right? We know we can't stand you, right? My little sister Sally is my dad's favorite, right? She always gets the extra big thing of ice cream. We hate it, right? You favorites. Ugh. Anyway, so he was his father's favorite. What else do we know about Joseph? Yes. He had a coat of many colors, right? He was swagged out. He had super drip, as the young people say. Anyway, yes. His family sold him. His brothers, even better. That's right. What else do we know about Joseph? He was put into slavery. Potiphar and Pharaoh. Very good. Yeah, I know you know who that is. All right, so you guys ready? I'm getting ready to tell the story. Oh, yeah, one more.
They sold him for silver.
Very good, very good, very good. All right, so let's tell the story. If you have your Bibles or if you have your tablets or whatever you want to read, go ahead and open up to Genesis chapter 37. We're going to start with this story. I'm going to kind of read through the text, and you guys bear with me, and we're going to get through this together. But I'm going to retell the story of Joseph and why this story makes sense. So here we go. Genesis chapter 37, beginning in verse number 3. Now Israel, Jacob, loved Joseph more than any of his other sons. Now, can this possibly be true? Can parents really have favorites? Parents don't have favorites. Oh, you don't believe it? Parents don't have favorites. Some of you guys are like, yeah, they do. Yes, they do. Right? But anyway, we see this being kind of odd, right? So out of all his children, he really had a favorite. And could you imagine this, right? Favorite son always gets the first pick of everything, gets a special coat, right? This was Joseph. He loved him more than any of his other sons because he had been born to him in his old age. And he made him an ornate robe for him. So this beautiful tie-dye, whatever you want to call it, super drip robe. I'm going to give this to you because you are so special and so sweet, and I just love you. You're daddy's baby boy, or whatever, right? So he is the favorite. As the story continues on, when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Anybody have brothers and sisters in here? Yeah, you come from brothers and sisters? Yeah. Have you ever had an experience like this before where your sibling got something better than you and you always think they always get something and I never get something? Mom always treats them that way, or dad always treats this one that way. This was a hard situation. So the brothers look at Joseph and they go, there is nothing nice to say to this guy. We hate him. And that's how they felt about their sibling. Story continues on. He said to them, listen, and on top of that, Joseph, I can just paint this picture, right? He has this favorite coat, and he sees his brothers, and he says, hey, bros, come here. I got to tell you a story. You won't believe the story I had last night. It's a doozy. And the brothers are like, okay, what story are you going to tell us? He said, come here. Let me tell you this story. So as he says it, he says this. Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. If that was my little brother, I would say, pause, flag on the play right then and there. I would have said, that probably wasn't a dream. That was a nightmare or something. That is not right. That is not correct. There is no way that I will ever bow down to you. First, any oldest siblings in the house, right? You wish your younger sibling would talk to you like this, right? This would never happen. But anyway, story comes. And so they bow down to it. Verse number 8, his brothers say to him, do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. So we all know this story really well. I'm much more important than you guys. I'm more powerful. You guys will one day bow down to me. This doesn't even seem right because we know how older siblings are. If you're an older sibling, you are the master of the house. Am I right? That's right. And don't you ever forget it. And younger siblings in the house today, you ought to respect your older siblings, right? Yes, that's right. So if your older sibling is here, you should go, you are the master, right? Go ahead and do that now. No, I'm just kidding. You are the master, right? Side story. One of my favorite movies growing up was The Last Dragon. Anybody see The Last Dragon? Bruce Leroy and Sho'nuff, right? Okay, I'll talk to you offline about this, but anyway. There was this one line that Sho'nuff used to always say. He used to say, who's the master, right? And every day growing up, I would say that to my brother. I would look at him and I would say, who's the master? And if he didn't say it, I would get him in a headlock and body slam him, right? And I would say, who's the master? And I wouldn't let up until he said, Jason's the master, right? And then I would let him up, right? And I still have that power over him till this day. I love it. But that's how older siblings are. We don't see this happening. Bow down and serve the younger ones. So anyway, they get together and they can't stand this guy. So they're going to do something about it. Verses 20 through 22. Come on now. Let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. That's a good idea. Yeah. That's a really smart idea. Why don't you do that? To your dad's favorite, right? And what is it about lies that we have to make it more extravagant to be more believable, right? So he's just minding his business and a lion jumps out and kills. Could you imagine explaining that to your dad? Yeah, Dad, I don't know. My brother, he was just riding his bike and then all of a sudden an eagle just swooped by and grabbed him and he's dead now. I don't know what happened to him, right? This is kind of how crazy this story is, right? Let's just say a ferocious animal comes and just takes him out. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams. When Reuben, the oldest, heard this, he tried to rescue him from their hands. Let's not take his life, he said. Don't shed any blood. Throw him into this cistern here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him. Reuben said this to rescue him from them and to take him back to his father. So to paint this picture, they had some family drama, didn't they? There were some issues going on right here. So to paint the picture, they're upset with their brother. They're ready to do away with him. And if you're Joseph at this point, and as the story continues on, you know, they put him in the jar and then they sell him to the Midianites. Could you imagine being mistreated in this way by your family? I wonder what Joseph was feeling when he was in that jar. The very people that I grew up with, the very people that love me and that I love, these are the ones that have hurt me the most. There's something about people that we love and that we are the closest to that can hurt us the most, can't they? Your little brother knows exactly what to say to get under your skin, don't they? Your older sibling knows exactly what to say. That church member knows exactly what to say to get under your skin at the right time. The people that we love the most can sometimes hurt us the most. And such was the case of Joseph. But as we continue on in the story, there's a really, really powerful story at the end. Genesis 45, verses 4 and 5. Then Joseph said to his brothers, at the conclusion of all, you know, there's a famine. He rises to power under Potiphar. And then Potiphar's wife accuses him of false pretense. They throw him in jail. Pharaoh has a dream. Joseph interprets the dream, and there's going to be a famine in the land. So you guys know the whole story. Eventually this famine happens, and then his brothers have to come to him to get the support that they need. Then Joseph said to his brothers, he recognizes them, they recognize him, come close to me. When they had done so, he said, I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt, and now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. Powerful, If you haven't underlined that in your Bible, keep that one with you. Sometimes when we're hurt and challenges come our way and difficulties come our way, they're for our pruning and for our kind of molding and shaping. And Joseph was able to recognize this. I have so many stories of challenges that I've encountered. And now that I'm on this side of them, I look back and I go, I needed to go through those hardships because they helped develop me into who I am today, right? They helped develop me into who I am today. So there's a couple of things that I want to leave you with tonight that I think are super, super important, that I think will be very practical for our learning tonight. Joseph could have easily quit his family at this point because of the way he was treated, but he decided not to. So here's the million-dollar question tonight. How do we learn to overcome hurt? How do we learn to overcome hurt? That's an open-ended question, and I want to hear some feedback tonight. What have you done in your life to get over an experience where you were greatly hurt? That's an open-ended question. Feel free to answer now. Anybody, tell me what you did to get over some hurt sometimes that you had in your life. You forgave. Was the forgiveness easy? Difficult. What else? You forgave. Yes. Okay. You have to give it some time, some breathing room. Very, very good. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Hurt people hurt people. I love it. Yes, that's right. Yes. Pray about it. Very, very good. All right, so I'm going to give you 3 things that I think will help us to get through times where we get hurt in our lives. This is for everybody in here tonight, for elders to preachers to young people to college students. I want you to keep this with you because this is super, super important, okay? So get ready to write these things down. I think these things will bless your life as you continue on in your life of faith, okay? So here you go. How do we heal from hurt? Some of you said this. The first thing I think we need to do to heal from hurt is we have to examine ourselves first. Why? Because sometimes the hurt that we have received is in retaliation due to something that we did to somebody that we have no idea we were doing. Right? We have to examine self first. And that's hard to do. Sometimes we get hurt by self-inflicted wounds. Do you know what self-inflicted wounds are? If you don't know what it is, I'm going to give you an example. Self-inflicted wound. It's when we hurt ourselves by something we do that is silly and stupid. I have multiple stories about that. Let me tell you one. I used to grill. I'm the grill master, as I like to call myself. And the way I grill is I like to use charcoal, the real stuff. But eventually, over time, I was hearing stories about gas grills and propane. So I say to my wife one afternoon, Mary, I'm going to go to Walmart and I'm going to get the new propane gas grill. You know, the one with 6 burners and then the little extra flap on the side just in case you want to saute something. I said, Mary, I'm going to go get this. And she said, sounds like a good idea, but you better be careful because it's gas. And I said, I know what I'm doing. I got this, right? So I get this grill and I don't read the instructions. I just put it together by looking at the pictures. Nothing could go wrong with that, right? So anyway, I get this grill and I go buy the propane gas and I hook it up and I turn it to full blast. And you hear the sound. See? And I'm like, yeah, it's about to go down, right? So I get this thing and I'm ready to put some brats on the grill. Again, mind you, I hadn't read the instructions, didn't know how to operate a gas grill. So I just kind of thought this is what you're supposed to do. Turn it on full blast. I went to each burner and put it on ignite. All 6 of them. And if you're a grill master, you know you're setting yourself up for failure at this point. Did I know? No. And Mary's looking at me. She says, I'm going to go inside for this one. I said, go ahead and go inside. So I open up the front of the top of the grill, and I think Alayla was even out there. All 3 of my girls were like looking through the window. I should have known something was about to go down at this point. But anyway, I hit the ignite button, and you know what it does? I'm leaning over the top, listening to the sound. Tick, tick, tick. All of a sudden, woo, right? An inferno surrounds my face, right? I burn my eyebrows, my mustache, my beard, right? And the girls are watching the whole time through the window. I singe my shirt, right? I close the thing. I didn't even say it. I just closed the top of the grill. And I walk inside. And as I look at Mary, you know what she said. I told you so. I told you so. Self-inflicted wounds, things that we do because we're not paying attention or we don't listen. We hurt people sometimes when we don't intend to. Self-inflicted wounds. We do stuff and then people retaliate to us. Another example of a self-inflicted wound. This is a really good one. This happened the other day. I just have to tell the story. Let me tell it, okay? I am at Best Buy, and there is a teenager with his mama. And he's walking with his mom, and they go to the video game section, and he's looking at games. And he pulls out a game, and he's looking at the game. I don't know why I'm minding people's business. I just am, because that's what I do. But anyway, so I'm watching this whole thing go down. So the mom comes up to the boy, and she's kind of hovering around him looking. And the mom says, son, what game is that? And the boy looks at his mom and turns around. He's like maybe 13. And he says, Mom, what game is this? And I was like, it's about to go down, right? He said, what game is this? This is Fortnite, stupid. In my head, I said again, it's about to go down, right? So I'm watching this whole interaction and exchange. And when the boy said that to his mama, the mom didn't do anything. She stepped back, and then I saw her take her purse, and she went like this. She started whipping it, and I'm thinking to myself, it's about to go down, right? She takes her purse, whack out, hits him right in the mouth. I saw his lips and his teeth, you know, those chatter teeth, they kind of fly out of his mouth, and they're on the ground at this point, right? She knocked him into next week. And I'm thinking to myself, that's what you get for talking to your mama like that, right? Self-inflicted wounds. He got hurt because of how he was interacting with someone else, right? So to make sure that we stay healed and we recover from our hurts, we have to examine ourselves to make sure that our actions aren't the problem. If we can get past this first step and realize that our actions are not the problem, then we can go to step number 2, which is to forgive quickly and often. In order for any relationship to work, whether that be boyfriend and girlfriend, whether that be best friend, BFF or not, whether that be husband and wife, whether that be a college roommate, you fill in the blank. In order for any relationship to work, you have to learn how to forgive quickly, okay? You have to learn how to forgive quickly and often. Why is this? Because in any circle of community you're in or friend group you're in, there is going to be a point where something is going to hurt you. There are no magic communities where everything is perfect, okay? No magic communities. Whenever you're in some kind of community, a situation is going to arise where you're going to get hurt. I tell that to my kids often. Be wary, be careful, know that somebody's going to hurt your feelings. Oh, they would never do that. Okay, just watch. It's going to happen. Your feelings are going to get hurt. So you have to be prepared going in. That's the same when it comes to the church. College students, young people, your feelings are going to be hurt when you go into any kind of community, specifically the church. Ministers, elders in the house tonight, you will be hurt. And in order to make these relationships work, we have to be willing to forgive quickly and often. You know, Jesus, his sacrifice makes this really clear. Jesus died on the cross for all of our sins that we will do in the future, that we're doing in the present, and that we have done in the past, right? He gave his life to forgive us often and quickly. He's like, look, I took care of this sin thing that you got going on, right? I forgive you. No matter how many times you mess up, I will always forgive you. That's the type of God that we serve. And that's awesome. And he wants us to return that same kind of favor to people that we encounter. You know what the scripture says? Pharisees and Sadducees go up to Jesus and they try to trap Jesus. And they say, Jesus, How many times should a person sin against me before I just cut them off? They say 7? That sounds like a good number to me, right? Somebody hurt your feelings 7 times, about time to cut them off, right? What was his response? Not 7, but what? 70 times 7. Forgive quickly and forgive often. If we can do that, we'll always heal from the hurt. And then lastly, as we close tonight, we've got to forgive often and quickly, but we also have to forget. This is a hard one. How many of you know a professional grudge holder? Anybody? Do you know professional grudge holders? Yeah. You probably know some, don't you? Where they can remember something that happened 20 years ago and bring it up. You remember when you dropped that cup and broke my favorite cup? I'm still mad at you. You're like, you remember that? That was like 30 years ago, right? There's some people that we encounter that are grudge holders and that can hold on to stuff and will not let it go and will bring it up at a moment's notice, right? That will let you know. I think forgiving and forgetting are intertwined. I've heard someone go like this before. I've forgiven that person, but I still think about what they did. I forgive them, but sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll be sweating and I'll be angry because I just think about what they did. But I've forgiven them. Really? Really? I think true forgiveness requires us to forget as well. Here's one of these terrible preacher illustrations that I've heard over and over again that I just can't stand. We need to correct this tonight. You've heard this illustration. When you get hurt and somebody sins against you, it's like they take a knife and they cut you. And when you're cut, you're bleeding. And then over time, the body heals itself. But when you look down, you'll always see a scar. And when that scar is there and you see that scar, you'll always remember what happened. Okay, I get it. But the Bible I read says that when God forgives us, he remembers our iniquities no more. He forgets they ever even happened. Now for humans, that's hard for us to do, right? When we're hurt, it's hard to get past it. But as soon as we can learn to forget that it ever even happened, we'll go well on our way to being people that can heal from the hurt that we feel. Why do I share this message tonight as a close? In this business we're in, kingdom business, we encounter a whole bunch of people. Some of you who are sitting next to each other right now, this might be the last season that you sit with each other. You may, after you leave this place, never see each other again. Or some of you guys will be in relationships for a very, very long time. Matter of fact, somebody that you're sitting next to might be your husband or wife. Who knows? You know, I've heard stories at Ganderbrook, right? I'm looking back there. You never know. I'm saying, right? Anyway, you never know. The relationships that we have right now, we have to cherish, but we have to realize that within these relationships, these broken pieces of pottery that we are in, we make mistakes and we hurt each other. I know so many people that I went to school with at Harding University that I grew up with who are no longer a part of the body of Jesus Christ because they've been hurt at a church. I went to church and somebody said something rude to me and I can't go back to that church because that church is full of hypocrites. You've heard that before, right? You know what that is? That's a cop-out, and that's being a quitter. Because if you quit when somebody hurts your feelings, you're probably not going to get far in life at all. But what makes you tough is when you get hurt, you're willing to get back up, just like Rocky Balboa. When you go to church and somebody says, that sermon was horrible, but you get right back up and say, I'm not worried about what you say, right? When you go to church and somebody talks about you or hurts your feeling, or you're in school or you're in class or you're in college and you encounter people that hurt you, you don't quit. You don't give up. You get right back up on your feet and you stay the course. Don't ever quit the church. Don't ever quit your life of faith. And I think if you have a never quit attitude, God can work a mighty, mighty work in you. As we close, great message. Now what? I've got a couple of things that I want you to do tonight. The first one is this. There is probably somebody here that has encountered a situation where you have been hurt, and you know right now that you need to forgive that person. I don't know who that person is. I don't know about the situation, but there might be someone here tonight that needs to forgive somebody. And you know who it is. Tonight, I would encourage you to go ahead and forgive that person. Let it go. Forget about it. Let it go. Go ahead and forgive that person. Second thing is this. Second thing tonight is I want you to kill, this sounds terrible, kill them with kindness. Let me finish what I was going to say, okay? You've got to learn to kill people with kindness. If you can learn this skill, you will go far in life. My final story before I close. There was a guy at my church. He was a tall guy. He was about 6'4", that just didn't like me. I think that's tall for me anyway, yeah. So anyway, he just didn't like me for whatever reason. Right when I got hired as the preacher there, he always had something to say to me, always. So I was preaching a sermon, and I stepped down, and you know what preachers do at the end of the sermon. They go to the back of the church, and they go and wait to shake people's hand. And you know what you're supposed to hear as a preacher when you're exiting the church? Good job, preacher. That was a wonderful sermon. Even if you hated it, what are you supposed to say? That was a great sermon, right? You just lie, okay? Make us feel good, okay? Anyway, I'm standing in the back of the church, and this guy comes up to me. He's 6'5", and he just says, Jason, I got to tell you something. That sermon you gave was horrible. And I thought he was joking, so I was like, that's a good one. And he was like, no, that was horrible. And I was like, are you kidding me? And he really, really hurt my feelings. And I said, oh, man, why was it horrible? He said, well, let me tell you why. And he had a list. Well, first of all, and he was there with me for like 15 minutes critiquing my whole sermon. And I was hurt, and I was angry, and I remember going home to Mary, and I said, Mary, I quit being a preacher. And she said, oh, no, you're not quitting. You better get back up there and give a better sermon next week. I said, okay. Right? So I go to church that next Sunday. I preach my heart out, right? And I'm thinking in my mind, this is the greatest sermon I ever preached. I'm waiting in the back of the church. You have people coming by. Great sermon. That was awesome. Here comes, I almost said his name. I'm not going to say his name. It almost came out. Here comes this 6'5" guy. He approaches me, and he looks down at me, and I look up at him, and this time I'm like, right? And he says, I just want to let you know. And I said, he's going to say it. That was another horrible sermon. And it crushed my spirit. And he did that week after week after week. And I was saying, Mary, I don't know if I can continue being a preacher. I think I'm done with this. If this is what you have to deal with every Sunday, I'm done with it. And Mary said, you're not quitting. Get back out there. And this time, Jason, what I want you to do is when he says those nasty comments, I want you to smile. And I said, that's hard to do because I really want to throat punch him. But she said, just be nice. I have short man syndrome. You know what that is? Throat punch him. Anyway, so Mary said, you treat him nicely. So the next Sunday, I preach a sermon. He comes up and he gives me a nasty critique again. And I said, you know what? I just got to be honest with you. I really, I just really appreciate your critiques. You know, they give me some insight that I've never considered before. To which the guy was like, really? I was like, yeah, really. And as a matter of fact, I want you to continue to critique me every single Sunday. As a matter of fact, write out some notes and give me something that I can work on. He was like, really? And I was like, yes, go do it. He was like, you got it, right? So I sent him with the project. You know what that's called, throwing him the long ball, right? So I said, go get it, right? He took off. So every Sunday, he would give me sermon critiques, and I would take those sermon critiques. You know what I would do? And I throw them away every single Sunday, every single Sunday. But Sunday after Sunday, I continued to wear him down with kindness. Until one day he said, Jason, I just got to tell you, you're the best preacher that I've ever heard. And I was thinking, I won, yes, I finally won. I tell that story to say this. When you're able to function in a posture of power and kindness and strength when people are punching you and knocking you down, God can work a mighty work when you learn how to live above the circumstance. When people go low, you go high, right? So that's what I want you to work on this week. This week, you may get discouraged. Somebody may fuss at you. You didn't sweep that corner right. Or you didn't tie that knot right, then the kids are going to... It's just... Okay. Tell me what you would like for me to do. And it'd be amazing what happens. So I want you to keep that with you this week. Kill them with kindness, okay? And then lastly, what I want you to keep with you is that you've always got to be too legit. You got to be too legit. So keep those three things with you, and I think God will bless you, and you'll continue to do good work while you're here at Ganderbrook. Thank you so much for your time.